can't see Eric.
I can't see him at all. And Chris is looking down. So.
Well, welcome everyone to the Bryan Area Chamber of Commerce and Montpelier Area Chamber of Commerce Spring Primary Meet the Candidates event. My name is Dan Yaris. I'm the Executive Director of the Bryan Chamber, and this is Kim Friend, Executive Director of the Montpelier Chamber. Tonight, we will be your moderators. Our sponsors for tonight's event include the Montpelier Chamber, the Bryan Chamber, the Bryan Times, and Bryan Municipal Utilities.
Our panelists this evening include Bob Golden, current president of the Bryan Chamber, Carrie Patton, current president of the Montpelier Chamber, and Ron Osborne, assistant editor at the Bryan Times. And our camera crew from Bryan Municipal Utilities is Eric Herman, Chris Bryce, and Tony Malenga.
Yep, Tony. Before we begin, we have a few household items to take care of. Everyone has one of these, correct? Probably most everybody does. Please take them out of your pocket, your purse, or your coat at this time and silence them for us, please.
I thought they were supposed to be silent.
I better silence mine too.
The restaurants are going to be located behind you if you
How
need
about
to.
restrooms?
Restrooms, not the restaurants.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well,
restrooms are behind you.
The restaurants are uptown if you want, yeah. Questions being asked of the sheriff candidates are not the opinion of tonight's sponsors or the chambers. They have been submitted by various citizens of Williams County through social media and other means and may have been edited or altered by our panelists. To not allow personal or critical comments to surface, the format for the evening will not allow for questions to be asked from the audience.
We ask that everyone please refrain from disrespectful outbursts during any portion of the evening. Any inappropriate behavior from anyone may result in removal from this facility.
Our format for this evening is simple. We will have all the unopposed candidates take a few moments to introduce themselves. They'll come up to the podium and then move into the portion of the evening where the three candidates for sheriff will join us on stage, taking over this table to answer questions from our panelists.
The panelists do not have any questions that have been submitted by community members for the unopposed candidates, but if during the unopposed candidate individual remark portion a light bulb moment happens, our panelists may ask a question toward a specific candidate.
Following tonight's event, the two chambers are providing punch and cookies and an opportunity for everyone to meet and greet. We hope the candidates and you will stay after so you could meet and greet them. Wow, that was a lot to read. I wonder who typed that all up.
That's your fault.
Oh, no, that's right, I did that. So, well, with all of that out of the way, shall we begin?
Let's do so. Up first tonight is Kim Herman.
I began my career at the Clerk of Courts Legal Division on May 23rd, 1994 as a deputy clerk. I was focused on the civil division under Sharon Miller. I quickly learned the bookkeeping, the criminal, the domestic, the Court of Appeals work, and I backed each of the deputies who were responsible for those duties. Sharon then promoted me to Chief Deputy Clerk of Courts. Unfortunately, she became ill, and she resigned as clerk in 2003. I was then appointed to finish her term, and from 2004 to the present, I have successfully been elected Clerk of Courts, and it's been my honor and privilege to serve our community. In the legal division, we maintain all of the records for the Common Pleas Court. We have about 1,000 new cases every year, and my office is keeping track of everything that the judge is making decisions on. And I'm also over the title division, and we issue vehicle and watercraft titles. We do approximately 25,000 titles a year. So I employ 3 deputy clerks in the legal division and 4 deputy clerks in the title division. I'm a working clerk in the legal division, and I am responsible for all the financials. The legal division also serves as passport agents, and yearly we recertify our duties. My legal and title offices work well with the public, and we have a high degree of efficiency and detailed work. Accuracy is most important. Elected into the office, collection of unpaid court costs, restitution, and fines became an important duty or goal of mine that I pursued. I researched different collection measures. When a defendant is imprisoned, I bill the prison and collect any funds possible over and above what the defendant's necessities are at that prison. I also contracted a collection agency called Municipal Services Bureau to pursue unpaid court costs. To date, I have collected $73,000 for Williams County. This agency does not invoice me for the services or our county. Instead, they bill the consumer 30% of the debt that is due. My present goal for the legal department is to work towards a paperless environment. There is expense involved, so I've applied for some state grants. However, I've been overlooked, but I'm going to keep trying. And in the meantime, I'm chipping away at my budget as it allows to prepare for this move in that direction. Regarding the title department, I have installed additional security measures at that one-stop facility, and I've kept the title building well maintained. I look forward to serving the public in our county for another term in office, and I appreciate being here tonight. All of us candidates, we're very happy that this is being hosted, and we're just glad to speak to you. So, thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Next is Lou Hilkert. That's what I have. I think you're up.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you all for coming. My name is Lou Hilkert. I'm a resident of Williams County, been a resident for 35 years. I'm married to my wife, Gail. She sits back here in the audience and has been a great supporter of me over the years. We have 4 grown children. We have 3 daughters and 1 son and 8 grandchildren. And you saw how excited Kim was about her grandkids. Well, I can get just as excited. I'm a graduate of Lewisburg Area High School. I'm also a graduate of the Ohio School of Banking, the Ohio School of Consumer and Commercial Credit, and the Graduate School of Banking in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been active in my community over the years as past president of West Unity Chamber of Commerce, was involved in Hilltop Athletic Boosters, and trustee for the Mill Creek West Unity Area Foundation and County North Foundation. I'm a military veteran, having served in the U.S. Army National Guards for 6 years, from 1969 to 1975. My wife and I, we attend New Hope Community Church. Qualifications for commissioner. 1, you need to be an adult of 18 years of age or older, and also not be convicted of any felonies. Other than that, any one of you could serve as a commissioner. My past experience, I have 50 years experience in finance and retail management. When we moved to Bryan, some of you might remember the old J.J. Newberry company in Bryan on the east side to Square. I was transferred, and we liked the area so well we stayed here ever since. The future economic growth of Williams County is very important. It's critical to our citizens, to our communities and schools, and as a member of the Board of Commissioners, you must be proactive in seeking economic growth to build a better quality of life for our citizens. I've been involved with WEDCO, Williams County Economic Development Corporation, for the last 24 years. I've served on the board, and I've also served as past chairman. The last 20 years, I've been involved with the Republican Central Committee. I've served on several boards representing the county, local within the county, regionally, and also at state level. Past commissioner accomplishments, we were quite active in an issue that everyone remembers is the Lick Creek project. That was very contentious. The Williams County did prevail on that, and that project did die and go away. We also were involved with the Melbourne and the Williams Center sewer projects. We were able to get 100% grant money for the Williams Center project. In Melbourne, we only had to borrow $565,000. So we felt really good about that. When you look at some of the future goals that we have, we're under findings and orders for Kunkel and Alverton sewer districts. We need to provide funding for that. We've been working diligently on that. Kunkel project will probably be bid yet before this year is over. There will be a meeting with the Kunkel residents here before the end of February. Alverton we're going to start working on that one as the Kunkel project is completed. Another important thing that's happening in the county, our radio system is deteriorating, and as a result, we need to upgrade the radio system. We've had collaborative meetings with the 911 communications, emergency management agency, the local law enforcement and local fire departments to discuss that. It's being narrowed in on a MARCS system. It will be rather expensive, but it is needed, and we look forward to, by the end of the year, know exactly which direction we're headed with that. If time permits later, I can maybe talk more about how the MARC system works. As a commissioner, we need to be sure that our budget is balanced. We need to keep that in check. Our general fund balance at present is at $16 million. The county commissioners have oversight of over $52 million in budgets for other departments that do not directly report to us. So I really feel that the commissioners are heading in the right direction. I'm looking forward to be reelected, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. And next is Heather Freese.
Good evening. Thank you for the Bryan Chamber and the Montpelier Chamber for putting this on so everyone can get a chance to see the candidates and get to know them a little bit better, hopefully one-on-one. But my name is Heather Freese, and I'm a born and raised Williams County resident, same time as Lou Hilkert, 35 years. And I'm so passionate about this community. I've served on the board for Habitat for Humanity, and ever since my 3 years was up, I took the break, and I've been with United Way ever since. And I just love the community that it has brought to my attention and the gift of service. So I can't say anything more about the United Way and what they've given this community. But some of the reasons why I'm running for commissioner is, over time, it's definitely felt that just a small set of individuals are making decisions for this county. And it's important that every one of us has a voice when these decisions are being made. So it's important that these decisions are made whenever possible, as long as it doesn't conflict with safety, in front of the public. In the atmosphere and the environment that it's created is that meeting space. So it's really important that all meetings, whenever possible, should be in that meeting space, so everyone has a chance to see what's going on in our government. Another thing is that this isn't the same community we grew up in. It's changing a lot. And things have been pretty contentious over the last year. And I feel like we have a responsibility to clear that up. And it seems like it's been a tough year for the commissioners to clean that contention up. And I know that I'm only one person, so it would take all three of them. But I'm hoping that with a fresh set of eyes and ears, that we can make that happen. And then I just also want to say that it's important to keep transparency. I can't stress enough more that the more that you're transparent, the easier it is for all of us to do our jobs. And thank you, everyone, for coming out here tonight. And if you have any more questions, thanks.
Up next is Terry Rummel. And while Terry's coming up, I just want to mention that somebody sitting to my right is celebrating a birthday. Wish her happy birthday a little bit later.
Are we going to sing?
No.
Yeah, and those are my fellow elected officials. So following Lou Hilkert would be redundant for me to repeat everything that he said, so I'll pare this down and it'll be much shorter. And by the way, I didn't talk to him, but this is my speech, and his was about 3 pages. So this will be short and sweet, but that's how I do things. First, I'd like to thank my family, friends, and fellow elected officials for supporting me for being your county commissioner. Without them, I couldn't do what I do, and I truly thank all of you for what you've done for me. I made a list of questions of what I've learned over 3 years. So I've been your commissioner for 3 years, and this is just the 5 bullet points that I thought of that I have learned as being your commissioner. One, the commissioner's job is not a 20-hour-a-week, 2-meeting-a-week deal. We spend an enormous amount of time being commissioner. It's on the phone. Thanks to Teresa for putting up with my phone ringing 24/7. So she has not thrown it out the window yet, but she's been close a couple times. So yeah, meetings, making decisions and talking to people is what a lot of my day is spent with, and I really enjoy it. As Lou said, the $16 million, the general fund that we get direct oversight over is $16 million, and the budget process was a monster to learn. For me, as a business owner, you would think, I run a small business, $6 million business, that was pretty easy. I knew that inside and out. But the county, the way the government handles it is just different. So everything that they do, I want to put back into a spreadsheet and do it the way the business community does it. So I spent the first 2 years fighting my way through that, and I think I finally got now that it's like, okay, I get it on their side of how they're doing it now too. So that goal has been accomplished, and I feel very comfortable with that. And as Lou said, we do oversee $52 million, but a lot of that is Todd Ross division and other MRDD, where it's more of a pass-through checks and balances where we look at that and oversee it, but it's not a direct. We don't have a lot of say on what goes on those. I learned that Todd Roth and his team at the county engineer's office and Denny Miller and his team at the Montpelier Valley Planning bring in millions of dollars to this community. We get the privilege of overseeing it and watching them do what they do and approving and talking about it some, but those folks do a ton for our community, and I just like to recognize them whenever I can on how much they do and how much money they bring into our community for the betterment of Williams County. Being a commissioner was the hardest and most frustrating job I've ever had, by far, but yet it's the most rewarding, and that's why I'm seeking re-election. I'll be honest, there was some times I thought there's no way I can't get through this. It's just too frustrating. But at the end of the day, the reward is definitely much more than the frustration. And It's a pleasure to serve you all as your commissioner. I wrote this down and I questioned myself whether I should say it, but I'm going to say it because that's what I do. I can't go through things like a bull in a china shop. As a commissioner, I can't snap my fingers and it just happens. Government operates slow, and it's designed that way. And it took me a long time to figure out that it's okay, let it be, and just let it go, because that was a very big struggle for me on watching that do that. But it's been a benefit, and I see the smirk on Patty Rocky's face. I've told you so. So, and Lou maybe grinned in there a little bit too, but for sure, you know, the reason why it's slow and it is designed that way, and it's worked that way for a long time. But so to make real positive changes, you know, collaborate with others, take your time, make sure it's right, and go through it. And in closing, I'll end with a quote that I sent out to my fellow elected officials the other day. It's the greatest lesson I have learned in life is that I still have a lot to learn. And I look forward to serving you for another 5 years now. So if I'm reelected, right now I'm unopposed. The way that it'll work is we have until one day before the primary election for an independent to go, and then I may be unopposed and be your commissioner. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. The next is Todd Roth.
Well, good evening and thank you. Again, my name is Todd Roth. I live in West Unity with my wife Angie. I have 4 daughters, and I'm soon to be a grandparent, so looking forward to that. And soon to be an empty nester as well. My youngest is a senior at Hilltop this year. This is my second term, and so it'll be 8 years after this year is up. I come from both the public and the private sector. This will be, at the end of this term, it'll be a little bit over 20 years in the public sector, and I have worked in the private, and I think that's what helps in my job, is having some background in both. The engineering department, we oversee the highway, sanitary division, drainage division, tax mapping, and the parks. Altogether, it's typically about a $7.5 million budget with all those divisions. Obviously, some of them come from different funds. The sanitary is ratepayers, the drainage is assessments, highway is gas tax. So on the highway side, which is the majority of our budget, it's license plate fees and gas tax money. We don't get any money from real estate tax or income tax. We deal with, on the highway, just to give you an idea, 300 bridges in the county, county bridges. There's other bridges, state, townships, 400 miles of road. So tonight, when they're out plowing, they'll cover 800 lane miles through the night. In the drainage, 270 miles of drainage ditches or tiles. It's about 85-15, 85% ditches and 15% tiles. On the tax mapping, conveyances, we deal with about 2,200 conveyances in a year. Averages probably 10 a day that get processed through our office that we have to look at. I can tell you that I truly enjoy my job. And a lot of it is the diversity. A lot of it's actually the people I work with. We have a great group of people at our office. There's 30 people in the office, 31 including myself. And I enjoy the diversity. We can be working on construction projects in the summer, small projects is like a culvert pipe, to large capital improvement projects, paving one day, sanitary sewer. We're working on the Kunkel project right now, trying to solve problems. Bona Vesta, most are probably aware of that, common problem or a current problem that we're trying to resolve. So I really enjoy the diversity. I enjoy what I do. I've enjoyed these last 7 years, finishing this 8th, and I hope to serve you for many more. Thank you.
Are we on? Up next is Karen Gallagher. Todd, I've got a request. Can you plow my road first?
Be out at 3 this morning.
Okay. We'll give it over to Karen.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Dan. My name is Karen Gallagher, and I'm running for the position of Judge of the Common Pleas Court of Williams County. As many of you know, there's 88 counties in the state of Ohio. Each of those counties has a Common Pleas Court. What is different in each of the counties is the number of judges that are elected to that court, and also the divisions that are under the Court of Common Pleas. In our county, we have 2 elected judges. They are on equal footing. They are both common pleas judges. The difference between them is that they are elected for different divisions within the court. Judge Stelzer is our elected judge for the Common Pleas Court, and he deals with the general and the domestic relations divisions. Judge Byrd is elected, and he deals with the probate and the juvenile divisions of the court. Judge Byrd is retiring at the end of his term, and that is the position that I'm seeking. Many of you may have either dealt with or heard about what the probate court does. The probate court, and I say court, the probate division of the court is that deals with the administration of a person's estate. If they die, whether with a will or without a will, it deals with the determination of mental competency. It deals with issues related to changes of name, adoptions, and is the center for marriage licenses and the performance of the marriages and the records as it relates to them. On the other hand, the juvenile court is different. The juvenile court handles juvenile matters. It deals with all issues that face juveniles when they get into trouble and they violate the law, when there are abused, neglected, or dependent children, or children that school truancy, which it deals with both the student and also the adults within that family. So that area is much different. That's a general overview of the courts so that you get an idea of the many facets that each of those divisions of the court does. It is a lot, and I'm just skimming the top of what it is, what's involved with those divisions of the court. To be qualified as a candidate for this position, you have to be an attorney, and you also have to be, have been in practice of the legal practice for 6 years at minimum. 34 years ago, I came to Williams County and at the start of my legal career, and I've had all of my legal experience here. During that time, I became a partner in the law firm. At the time I left, it was called Gallagher & Gallagher. There were many names to it. I practiced with my husband, who is also an attorney, and we had a very thriving practice, it was a good practice. I was involved with handling legal matters for people within our community and also in surrounding communities, and not only individuals, but corporations and agencies as well. I had a lot of experience in court. I was what's called a trial attorney, so I ended up in court quite a bit, and that has certainly helped me in my in what I do now. In May of 2016, I left private practice and became the magistrate for the Williams County Common Pleas Court, all 4 divisions. So I have the responsibility as being appointed by both judges to serve all those divisions. As a magistrate, many people don't really understand that term, but it is a hearing officer. I hear cases from start to finish, and I make decisions about people's lives in very important matters. So I have been having the privilege of doing that since almost 4 years now. I find that combination of experience of having both been a legal practitioner and also now as magistrate, when you put that all together, I have a very unique perspective of being a judge, of what that position will be. I have seen both the inside, looked at it from the inside as being there now, and also on the outside as representing clients who have been through the court system and seeing how the court system has impacted them. So I think with that experience, I'm hoping that this position, I'm hoping to be able to be very impactful in this position. What I have learned as being a magistrate and also as a legal practitioner is that people come to court when they have experienced the most traumatic events of their life. If you think about it, in probate court, someone has died, maybe a family member. Or in juvenile court, a juvenile has gotten into trouble, or maybe even is abused or neglected. Those are very traumatic and life-changing events. It is my belief that the court should be very involved and very helpful to people who come to court, that we are there to provide services and to make families stronger, and I think we can do that both independently through our resources as the court and our personnel, but we can also do that in collaboration with the schools and the agencies within our county. And I'm looking very forward to working together to build those kinds of relationships. The court is doing great things now, but we can also do much more. We've got a long way to go because there are changing times, and we have to move with the times. We have to be able to be a powerful force in making our community better, stronger, and making sure that these juveniles who are out there now, who are a little wayward or maybe getting into some trouble, that we do the best that we can to make them be productive adults. So I thank you, and the other thing I want to say is that in this time that I've become magistrate and been at the courthouse, the beautiful building that it is, and being able to work there has been quite a privilege to me. But I've also been able to meet these elected officials that you've had and you've elected over the years. And though this is the first time that I've run for anything, I will tell you that you should be so proud of your elected officials. They work very hard, and I'm very happy, and I hope that I can be part of that team as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Our next candidate is Katie Zartman.
Hello, I'm Catherine Zartman, and I'm your current Williams County prosecutor. I'm running unopposed to continue as prosecutor this year. A little bit about me: I live in Bryan with my family, my husband and my daughter. I've been living here since 2008. I'm a graduate of Miami University in Ohio and Case Western Reserve University School of Law. I've been your county prosecutor since July of 2015. Prior to that, I was an assistant Williams County prosecutor for 7 years, so I've been a prosecutor in Williams County for more than 11 years now. I'm so grateful to the people of Williams County that I've been allowed to have this position. The citizens of this county are so wonderful, so welcoming. There's a real community here, and I'm so proud to serve all of you. One thing that I focus on every day is what the citizens of Williams County want from me and from my office. I serve for you and your interests and your families. I'm here to help keep you safe, help keep your property safe, help victims and children, and help prevent crimes from happening. The number one focus of our office is the safety of the community. If a person is not safe to release to the community, then that will override every other consideration that we have. So the community and the citizens are constantly on my mind. My favorite day of the month is Grand Jury Day because that's when I get to interact with citizens. Citizens get to hear about our cases and what law enforcement does for them on a daily basis. And it's so wonderful to hear from citizens. We get to educate them on what we do, on what the laws are and the crimes that are happening around here. And in turn, they get to tell us what they think. What do you think about this case? What do you think about this law? What do you think about this police procedure? Is it fair? I love meeting with the local people and hearing from their perspective. The prosecutor's office does a couple of different duties. We prosecute all the felony cases for Williams County. We don't do the misdemeanors. The city attorney handles those. We also prosecute all the juvenile delinquencies, felony and misdemeanors, and the juvenile traffic cases. We represent Job and Family Services on the cases involving abused and neglected children. And we represent all the county departments and all the county officials and agencies and all the townships on any legal matter. So the three attorneys in our office actually do quite a lot of different types of work that you might not realize, not just the highly visible felony cases. When I took office in 2015, I changed the office from one that was with a private practice to one that is not with a private practice. That means that instead of being part of a law firm, everyone in my office works entirely for Williams County. We've been able to devote more time and attention to the local officials who we have to advise, which is a positive for Williams County. We've had some major successes in my tenure as county prosecutor, with some significant trials won, pleas made, and lengthy sentences received on serious criminal cases. And we've also had positive policy changes in the past 5 years as well. I'm very proud that we started the Williams County Prosecutor's Office Top Cop Award program to recognize exceptional local law enforcement officers. I'm heavily involved with the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association, who lobbies for legislation that affects crimes, victims, and counties and townships. We fight for victims and citizens in the State House, and I'm glad to be part of the executive and legislative committees on the OPA in order to advocate for the people of smaller rural counties like Williams County. I wish to remain as your county prosecutor because the job is so much fun, so rewarding, and so inspiring. Now, don't get me wrong, it is very hard, very difficult work, very time-consuming. I have to make a lot of agonizing decisions, and I constantly second-guess myself. But I love being on the right side of justice. I love fighting for victims and for the vulnerable, for children and the elderly. I love doing jury trials and writing and arguing cases. I'm so blessed to be able to serve all of you and to serve the principles that I believe in. Justice, integrity, honesty, personal responsibility, fairness, equality, and standing up for what is right. Those are the things that I believe in. I love the challenges of working towards those ideals within the confines of the law. In my office, we strive for efficiency, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. And I personally prefer to do it all with respect and civility towards all, including my opponents, including the offenders. Everyone is a person and deserves my respect. And I find that having a reasonable, respectful attitude is not only more professional, but it actually helps me to succeed. You can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, as they say. I wish to thank everyone who has believed in me and supported me over the last 11 years, and I wish to thank all of the citizens of Williams County for allowing me to represent you.
Thanks, Katie. Up next is Patty Rocky. Our panelists, I guess they haven't had any questions, but maybe they'll catch Patty off guard here. No. Well, Patty's saying no. So let's give it up for Patty.
Good evening. Thank you to the Bryan, the Montpelier Chambers for hosting this event, and thank you to the voters who braved the impending weather that they're calling for to come out. I really am grateful for the opportunity to get to meet you and to address you. I'm Patty Rocky. I currently serve as your county recorder. I've served since 2013 in that role. I'm married to my husband Jason, and we have 3 children, Morgan, Colin, and Riley. I graduated from Montpelier High School. I'm a 2006 graduate of Hondros College, the real estate division, and a 2009 graduate of the Joanne Davidson Ohio Leadership Institute. And I'm currently seeking re-election. My previous experience as a real estate professional, along with 25 years of customer service, supervisory, and budgetary experience, have helped to prepare me for this position. My first experience with the county government was in 2006 when I was appointed to serve as a board member on the Williams County Board of Elections. And in 2010, I was hired to be the chief deputy recorder at the Record Center. And then in 2012, I did run for county recorder. I have served one term as the Ohio Recorders Association on the legislative committee from 2014 to 2018. In 2018, the Recorders Association appointed me to serve as secretary and treasurer, and I currently, in my position with the Recorders Association in Columbus, serve as the vice president. So a lot of people will say, well, what does that I was interested to know that Katie served also at her association. So for me, I always consider our association as your lobbyist. So I'm watching legislation, I'm paying attention to what's going on down in Columbus, and usually I'm calling or going down there and saying, whoa, this is gonna hurt Williams County. This might work for the big cities, but you're gonna hurt my taxpayers, and that's not gonna happen. So that's, and those who know me know that I can be pretty vocal, and I do try to serve us well, and I fight, I don't want to say fight, but I argue for Williams County even amongst our association, because 88 counties, we have, sometimes the bigger counties want to have legislation that is going to be great for a big county, but it's going to be detrimental to our taxpayers. And so that's kind of what I deem myself as, is your lobbyist. So if you have issues as far as real estate related, because I don't know who knows this, but as far as the county recorder, anything that has to do with land records happens within our office. So if you have concerns about legislation or there's things that you know are coming, feel free to give me a call or stop into the office and talk about it, and I can let you know what I know, and I will definitely be checking out your concerns. So during the past 3.5 years, the Williams County Recorder's Office has partnered with a new recording software vendor. We've implemented e-recording documents, which has made us more efficient. We've partnered with the county commissioners on the county server upgrade. We've developed and are continuing to develop automated solutions to help increase efficiency throughout the county and lessen the county's physical storage footprint. This is not something that I have done. This is something that we have done within the Recorder's Office and the Records Center with the vision and support of the other elected officials. What I will take credit for is having the foresight to hire people that can see what our vision is and having the knowledge how to execute what our vision is, and putting teams of people together to execute that. With 2 small offices over the Record Center and the Recorder's Office, efficiency is our top priority. We have cross-trained the Record Center to be able to step in and work at the Recorder's Office at the drop of a hat. I can't tell you how blessed I am with the quality of people that I work with on a daily basis. Our goals for the next term within the 2 offices are to implement and promote property fraud alerts. So with the new software system that we've implemented, taxpayers can sign up for free, no cost to them, for an alert that if somebody files a land records, a document within our office in your name, it will send you an email and let you know within 24 hours that there was a document, so that we can hopefully try to ward off any fraud that could happen to your properties. We're working to expand the e-recording to conveyance documents. This will improve efficiency on the deed transfers throughout the county and will need to be done in collaboration with the engineer and the auditor's office, but that's one of the goals. And we will continue to develop the automated systems to improve efficiency throughout the county. Specifically, right now, we're hoping to have time cards and vacation and sick time instead of doing those hard copies, doing those electronically. So in closing, I just want to say thank you to my fellow elected officials for our wonderful working relationships and support of one another. You truly are family to me. I'd like to thank my staff for always making me look good. They're the smart ones, and for always putting the constituents first. And thank you, the voters of Williams County, for trusting me as your recorder for the past 7.5 years. I humbly ask for your continued support and your vote in March and November. Thank you. Do you have anything? I will answer your question. Okay.
Thank you, Patty. Our final unopposed candidate tonight is Kelly Gray.
Good evening. I am Kelly Gray, the incumbent candidate for Williams County Treasurer. I've lived in Williams County for most of my adult life. I'm married to Kevin Gray, and we have 2 children, Camry, who attends OSU, and our son Carter, who is a junior at Hilltop High School. To give you a little bit of a background on me, for those who don't know me, I was raised in a farming family in the 1980s, where I learned very quickly that I'm wash and wear, and that sometimes dirt is the best character builder. I also acquired a genuine appreciation for hard work, the importance of being frugal, patience, and the gift of forgiveness, and when you put God first, everything else falls into place. I share this with you because the things we experience in our lives make us who we are. During my younger years, I didn't completely understand how important those things were going to be until I grew into the part of my life where those experiences and values became very important tools that I would need in both professionally and personally. So professionally, I have over 17 years of accounting and purchasing experience, mostly in the manufacturing setting. 3 years in finance, 6 years probably serving the Mill Creek West Unity School Board of Education, all of which have given me a strong set of skills and knowledge needed to fulfill the role and responsibilities of the Williams County Treasurer. So I'm a little nervous because I'm the newbie of the group because I've only been on duty here for 10 months. So with that being said, so coming into the office 10 months ago, I set a few goals. The first goal I set was to understand and perform the duties and responsibilities of the Williams County Treasurer position itself. The second goal was to learn the roles and responsibilities of our 3 deputy treasurers, all of which do a great job every single day. My third goal, and probably the most important, was to put goals 1 and 2 into place as quickly as possible to ease the transition, maintain the integrity of the office, and keep it running as efficiently as years past under the outstanding leadership of Vicki Grimm. In addition to achieving those 3 goals, I have worked diligently to reduce delinquent taxes, have offered solutions to those in need when possible, and have sought out the highest local rate of return on our county investments. So in addition to that, I also collect real estate taxes, which a lot of you are probably aware of. And I'm sorry, it's just part of the job. So the position of treasurer is an important part of our county, as a treasurer's office basically acts as if it's the county's bank and investment manager. Because of its importance, it deserves to be handled responsibly, efficiently, and with good stewardship. So I'm here tonight to ask you for your support in the upcoming election. I have the experience, the knowledge, integrity, and compassion needed to serve you as your Williams County Treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. Am I on here? I never can hear. At this time, we are going to take a quick intermission. We need to reset just a few things up front here, and we will be back about 10 minutes, and we will be back with our sheriff candidates as they take their place at the table right here. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Help, wouldn't it? Test. If we could make our way back to our seats, please, if you would. We'll get started with the second portion here. And while you're making your way back to your seat, I'd like to thank the unopposed candidates that came forward. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules for being here tonight. And we also thank the sheriff's candidates for being here tonight too, which is the next portion. I'm going to let Kim have it.
Okay, welcome back. At this time, we would like to begin the portion of the question and answer period with our sheriff candidates. Each candidate is asked to state their name and a brief family and work history. We are asking them not to use any of their reasons of running in their opening remarks. We will begin on the far left with Sean Falk, then Tom, I don't know how to pronounce your last name and I always butcher it, Cohart, and Tim Livingood. Livingood. I've known you for how long? Sorry.
All right, guys, we'll let you go ahead and start. And Sean, if you want to start and introduce yourself.
My name's Sean Falk. I was born and raised in Paulding County. I graduated from Paulding High School in 1997. Then moved over to Defiance, where I went to Defiance College. I graduated in 2001 with a bachelor's degree. It was a double major in criminal justice and business administration. And then I joined the reserves, the Defiance City Police Department. And then after I graduated from Police Academy from Paulding in 2002, then I joined the Williams County Sheriff's Office in March of 2002. I was there until the end of 2018, and then I joined the Stryker Police Department. And I also have been at ConAgra in Archbold. I started out there in an entry-level position and worked my way up in 6 months, and now I run an 80-man union position over there as well. My family, I have my wife Colleen. We've been married since 2002. We have proud father of 5 daughters, Haley, Emily, Adelie, Abby, and Lily, 2 of our girls that we had adopted as we were foster parents for 10 years. That's about my history.
My name's Tom Cohart. I am married to my beautiful wife Claudia, that's here tonight, and I have 2 lovely daughters and a son. I believe my son is here. The other one is in Washington State, so she couldn't be here tonight. I am a graduate of 1983 graduate of Lexington High School, which is down in the center part of the state near Mansfield. I served 4 years in the United States Army, active duty. I was attached to the U.S. Army's 7th Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. After the Army, I worked for the Mansfield Police Department for 3 years as one of their telecommunicators. Then attended Hocking College, where I earned an undergraduate in wildlife management, and then was hired by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, where I served as a state wildlife officer for 23 years, retiring in 2015. Since that time, I was active with the Sheriff's Department just until August of this year, where I conducted some training, especially for the reserve deputies. I'm also active as an elder at the Life Changing Church, both in Angola and in Edgerton, Ohio. And I am the post commander of Eden's American Legion Post 662.
Good evening. My name is Tim Livengood. I born and raised in Williams County. I graduated in 1987 from Bryan High School, and shortly thereafter I entered the United States Army. I spent just 16 and a half years in the United States Army Military Police Corps. I've had multiple opportunities to travel around the world in amazing places and throughout Germany and a plethora of other locations around the world to serve this great nation. I exited the military. At the same time, I was in the United States Army Reserve, stationed out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, 384th MP Battalion, where I was part of an EPW operations where at one point in time we were activated and our unit went to Guantanamo Bay. I went through the police academy in 1997, and I've been involved in law enforcement collectively for over 32 years. 20 years of law enforcement experience as a supervisor, and currently 12 years as an administrator for the Pioneer Police Department and there as a chief of police. My lovely wife, Dareth, is here. I have 7 amazing children. I'm a very proud father. I'm very happy to be a representative for Williams County and serve the community and continue to serve doing just exactly what we do in law enforcement.
Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you guys for coming and being a part of this candidates night, being willing to come and ask questions and answer questions, and thank you for your willingness to be a service. That's how it works. First question, especially in light of some of the news that just happened today with our current sheriff. I know each of you has mentioned about the need to rebuild relationships as a task you want or need to pursue. Why do you think that's an issue? Who will be involved, and how do you plan on accomplishing that? How will we know that you're doing that? And we'll start with Tom.
For my 23 years in law enforcement, full-time law enforcement, state wildlife officers cover a very large geographic area. I was involved with over 13 court jurisdictions, filed cases routinely in almost 13 court jurisdictions, from here to Port Clinton, from here to Lima, and all of those. Also, all the different county agencies in all of those respective court jurisdictions and counties, I also had to deal with. Now, you should note that the Department of Natural Resources, when they assign a wildlife officer to a county, you are the only one assigned to that county. So all of my dealings with those agencies was just me. Now, how does that apply to building relationships? For the most part, I already have those relationships in place, be it with juvenile probation agencies, with the courts, both municipal and common pleas, but with most of the county agencies and most of the folks in the county I've already worked with. Now, it's interesting to note that over the course of my career, all of those agencies changed hands and faces over 2.5 decades several times, and I was still able to build those relationships. Now, multiply that by 13 some counties, 13 court jurisdictions. Now, when you add state agencies, the Ohio EPA, like for spills, pollutions, fish kills, when you add federal agencies in that mix as well, you have quite a laundry list of agencies in there. And I would note that of all of those agencies and of all those years that I worked with them, and they kept changing hands and changing hands, not once did any of those agencies come and say, we can't work with this guy. To the contrary, I never lost any of the cases that I put in those courts, not one, not a single dismissal. And all those cases that were filed and those proceedings that we had to deal with and build those relationships for all turned out satisfactorily. So yes, relationships are very, very, very important. And I plan on basically doing what I've already done, just maintaining those good old-fashioned common courtesy. We may not need to be best buddies, but we do need to work together at least to accomplish the goal, and that is just exactly what I'm going to do.
Tim, can you address that?
I mean, I think it's probably pretty fair to say that a lot of our ideas are probably fairly much the same, are pretty much the same. However, I've been very fortunate over the course of my career to develop those networking abilities through my affiliations, whether it was with the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police, the Ohio Tactical Officers Association. I attend the AG's conference for the past 12 years, the Ohio Chiefs of Police in Service, which also allows me to formulate those relationships and form those networks with people from the Attorney General's office all the way to Governor DeWine's office currently. So obviously what's very important to focus on is our relationships that we have within the county. One thing I think we can clearly see that there has been an unfortunate divide, if you will, throughout the county. There's been turmoil, but I think what we need to do is remain focused, and we need to get back to business. And I think those interagency agreements and working with one another towards one common goal, and that's performing law enforcement and taking care of our deputies day in and day out. I think those relationships that I have had over the years have been very important. They're well established, and we have great working relationships, and we'll continue to do that under my administration.
Sean, are there divisions, and how would you mend those relationships?
Kind of the same as what Tom and Tim both said. This is something that all of us have been here for at least about 2 decades, that we've seen people come and go, the faces change, and the different agencies that we're working with. We've all been able to keep good working relationships. I know myself, I have, even as a supervisor at the Sheriff's Office. Even when you're going through, and as a field training officer and you're training new deputies, I've trained 10 different deputies at the Sheriff's Office. You have to take those guys around and show up at each one of these agencies, introduce them, kind of give them the 411 of kind of exactly everything goes on with that agency, what they do, how they pertain to any type of case, whether it's a civil case, juvenile case, a criminal case, something in common pleas, municipal court. Even going out and working with the children and trying to protect the children out there. I was a foster parent for 10 years. I know how a lot of proceedings and stuff works on that. I know how a lot of it works with doing with the juvenile court system. Even as a foster parent, I understand the struggles and stuff that's out there, that sometimes you get these kids into your home and you decide, man, they would be better off staying with me, or they'd be better off staying that. But dealing with the court systems and how things work, the idea of what happens with some of that stuff is reunification with children, with their parents. That's the ultimate goal in the process. And even in the struggles you have as a foster parent or as a police officer in that, you see these same calls coming in. You're going to the same houses, you're dealing with the same children, trying to get the right process and stuff going there. It's sometimes hard to deal with, but that's what we all signed up to do. This is what we all like to do. Sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's hard, but you keep working with the other people from those other agencies. You keep mending those relationships, and you try to build a good working relationship with them. It's the only way to help the children that's out there, help the parents get back on their feet, and if it's other agencies that you're working with, even if it's police agencies, it's one of those things where you gotta train together. You gotta work together. Even if there's, sometimes guys have different egos and stuff that you got to deal with. This chief don't want to get along with that chief. When it all comes down to it, someone calls for help, everyone's going to drop everything and you're going to go back and back each other up. And that's the same mentality that we're all going to have as we move forward. And it's the same way that I'm going to teach my deputies as well, is you drop everything, you go and help as it is. If it's a different agency, if you're going out to protect job and family on a call, if you're going out to work courthouse security, or if you're going out to help a judge or anybody else that needs the assistance. But keeping the open lines of communications and working with those other agencies is something that's going to take a while. And it's probably going to take more than a 4-year term at this point to mend some of those relationships. It's not going to happen overnight. And I plan to be here for the long haul.
Thank you, Sean. I want to thank you for all coming and being a part of tonight, as well as the public and our officials. Going off of, speaking of relationships, do you have, and this is to all of you, so we'll start with Tim. Do you have any creative ways the sheriff's office or the office working with other agencies can address the drug problem in Williams County and the increase of sex trafficking in Northwest Ohio?
Sure. Speaking from an administrative standpoint, when we're trying to combat what seems to be an ongoing problem, it's been a growing problem, and the drug problem hasn't changed. It inclines for years, and then it will decline. Quite often, it may change the different types of drugs that are out there now, but I think that what would have to happen is, once provided the opportunity to take that seat leading this county, I think we have to sit down and take an evaluation and take a look at the current programs that are in place, take the opportunity to sit down. I don't think it's just a sheriff's decision alone. I think we have to, start talking with other administrators throughout the county, working with the other chiefs in the county. I think as well as taking the opportunity to assess the current multi-area narcotics task force and determine how well that's working. Speak with the judges and talk with the judges and determine, is the program been successful? Is it doing what we need to do? And then take a look at some of the rehabilitation type programs that are out there so that we can strive to get the people that need help, the help that they need to get them back on their feet. It's just going to take opportunity to sit down, assess where we're at, evaluate the program, and if it's being effective, we keep the program running, just because it's important. We got to keep the drugs off the street to the best of our ability. Are we going to eradicate drugs indefinitely? Absolutely not. It's a problem that's just been in existence for a long time. And I think that if we're out here, we're consistent. We utilize the resources that we have available to us to go out here and take care of business. We can make our streets safer, make our kids safer, make our communities safer as a whole. That's how I would do things.
Thank you. Tom, same question, but also, do you see any issues with the current programs that are in place?
To answer that, first of all, I want to say that the opioid crisis and a lot of the challenges that are facing Williams County right now, those are national and state issues. It's not, there's nothing that's unique here to just Williams County. So, if any one guy, if I had a pat answer that I could solve the opioid crisis or any of these other challenges, trust me, I'd be running for a lot more than your sheriff. And something that paid a lot better than that also. Second, I just want to say, if anyone thinks that we're going to arrest our way out of this problem, you're mistaken. You are draining the ocean with a thimble. Okay, I don't think there's anybody here that's naive enough to think that if every drug dealer in this county right now surrendered along with their stash, that by tomorrow afternoon we couldn't drive into Bryan and buy anything that we wanted. I don't think there's anybody here that's naive enough to think that that's not true. okay? You're simply not going to eradicate it by arresting your way out. However, with a lot of the current programs, the sheriff's office is given a budget, and inside of that budget is designed to run the sheriff's office. Now, the state mandate to a sheriff's office is to provide courthouse security and law enforcement in rural and unincorporated areas of the county. That includes all types of law enforcement. So to focus a huge portion of my budget on combating just one problem, it's not, that's not fiscally responsible, and it's not showing good stewardship. However, there are so many nonprofit groups in this county right now, AA, NA, a brand new one just opened in Edgerton, Celebrate Recovery, and those folks are already doing the job of rehabilitating people. There are vocational rehabilitation programs, there's training programs. Those nonprofit agencies are already in existence, they're already self-funded, they're already doing the work. Now, the sheriff's role would be to sit down and find out, what are all you folks doing? What is your forte, so to speak? And simply assimilate those people into one common goal, and when different folks come out of the legal system and are diverted to one of them, then we know exactly what does this guy truly need? What's this guy's truly problem? You see, it's twofold, and it's like a twofold plan of attack. First of all, I hope you didn't hear that I'm not going to do anything about the drug dealers. That's nonsense, okay? It's just like a military strategy. First of all, you attack them from the front, you attack them from the rear, you utilize the man unit, you utilize any resource that you have, and you take out the ones that are dealing this stuff here, aggressive law enforcement with an emphasis on putting cases together that are actually going to go through court, cases that are very well thought out, basic criminal investigation techniques, so that when something is presented to the legal system, it's something that's going to make it through it. There's no holes in that. And at the same time, you're attacking the supply line. The supply line is those people that are hooked on this stuff. It's like a circle of death for these people. They get locked in that. All we're going to do is show up, bring them back with a dose of Narcan, put them in the hospital. When they're good enough to put them in front of a judge, put them in jail for a while. When they get out, guess what? Just a matter of time before we're showing up again, giving them another dose of Narcan. That's not working. That is an endless cycle. That is a circle of death. Get those people off of this stuff. And there's nonprofit groups out there that aren't going to cost us anything. They're already self-funded. They're already doing the work. Get these people into those programs at the same time we're hitting the drug dealers. That's how you answer that and a lot of the other social challenges that are facing this county.
Thank you, Tom. So I really have not heard any creative ways, that was part of the question, on how to come up with addressing the drug problem. Sean, you look like a creative person. Have you thought of any creative ways in addition to what Tim and Tom have said?
Yeah, you'll see that I'm a candidate. I have a plan of exactly what I'm going to do in my plan of attack. But when you set off and look at the situations when we're out there, when you deal with seeing someone, as what Tom even said, you see someone getting Narcan and to bring them out of it. I've been on calls where we've been with the EMS, and the EMS guys will tell you this is the third time we've Narcan this guy this week. There's an issue that these guys are still on the street and getting Narcan 3 times in 1 week. There's programs out there that you're going to have to continue to do. But my biggest focus is, since day one when I walk in, I'm pulling all of my resources back in, evaluate exactly everything that's going on. My man unit person would come back. We spend $25,000 to $30,000 just for the privilege of putting someone down in the man unit. I don't know what the accountability is, what they work on, what they don't work on. Even as a supervisor, I wasn't free to that information. That's stuff that I'd like to know. I would like to see, especially even this time I left and went to Stryker Police Department, you get to the point where you see that you get information on drugs, you hand the stuff off, nothing's being done. You give them stuff going on, more information, nothing's being done. Manion is multi-county. They have a lot of other bigger fish to fry, but they're not always focused on what we're doing in Williams County. I have no problem working with Manion and helping them keep going, but I would definitely like to see where we take that extra $30,000 back into our budget, and we have our own countywide officer, an own officer that's going to work with all the local police departments. Again, this goes back into uniting the county. If I have somebody that's in here and Stryker PD or Montpelier PD has some information, they call, hey, Jim Bob's the one that's doing the drugs over here. Well, that's funny. Edgerton PD told me the same thing. Then we start focusing more down on what's going on. Share that information with the 13, 14 deputies that's out there on the road, and we start getting a plan of attack and going forward. But from day one, we have to pull our resources in. We have to work with the meaning, what's going on, but I'd like to have a countywide officer that works on nothing but the drug addictions, the drug usage and stuff here in the county. And then from that office and the resources that they have, start working with the judges, the prosecutors, the court systems, and figure out what programs out there that we need to get. And like Tom said, there's plenty of nonprofit groups out there that are eager to help, but we just got to get a team assembled and put together. But to me, the key to that is creating this drug officer that's going to work with the local police departments, work with the judges, work with Job and Family, and try to get the situation put together. But I'm also going to continue the DARE program. I will continue to work on keeping that fully funded. I'd even like to take an extra step where myself and maybe another officer or two will stop in and meet with high school seniors through the history teachers and stuff and sit down and talk about what's going on. How's the laws changing you? How does this drug information affect you? How does check writing? How does everything that, as you go on as a senior, you're turning 18. Now guess what? Society wants you to be an actual adult that's going to help out everyone else. Well, how are you going to do that when you don't understand the contracts you're going to sign when you go live somewhere, the checks that you're going to write, and kind of teach them about traffic stops, how things go. But you take that same time and energy that you put into these kids and sitting in these classrooms, they're going to come up with the questions and they're going to have things for you. Hey, my buddy Jim Bob, he's got this issue with some drugs. What's some stuff we can do there? What's some ideas that we can help them? Or hey, I saw this one thing. Is this actual drug or not? And educate them on what's going on. You get someone that's out there that's in the classroom teaching these kids exactly what's going on as they turn 18 and what laws are really going to affect them. Because guess what? You're not 17 no more. You're not hidden behind your parents. You're not going to go in front of the juvenile judge. Now you're stepping up in front of the adult judges, and you're going to be held accountable to what's going on. So to me, the key of all this first is going back, pulling everybody in, and creating a countywide drug officer, and then we start attacking it from there.
Sean, you led perfectly into the next question I want to ask, and I'm going to ask all three of you this, and it's a three-part question. It should be a shorter one, so it'll be easier, okay? So, Sean, what is the current total number of staff the sheriff oversees? What was it 10 years ago in 2009? And what is the maximum number of full-time law enforcement officials, or deputies, I guess, that you've supervised?
Right now, I believe there's about 13 deputies on the road. I know there's short one right now that they need to hire. I was actually the union president back when, about 2008, 2009, when the economy hit hard times, and we lost 7 deputies, road deputies, and 1 court officer. Or not, excuse me, not court officer, but an office lady. While I was there, I wasn't a supervisor back when we lost our 8 actual workers. But while I was there, we had 13 officers on the road. I was usually the second and third shift supervisor. But yeah, there's about 13, 14 officers right now. But if you would pull the main unit officer back and we reevaluate what goes on with the scale team and that, you could have an extra guy there, or we expand further from there too.
Okay, just to be clear there was a lot of math, and I'm not great at that, so.
There's about 13, 14 deputies on the road now. There's 13. I think there's 1 you got to hire yet.
Okay, and what was the maximum number that you supervised in a law enforcement?
About the 13 or 14 there at the sheriff's office.
Okay, and then we'll go to Tim, and then we'll go back to Tom.
Okay. Yeah, as is also my understanding, there's 13 deputies. Obviously, there's room for expansion, if you will. I honestly, to be completely honest with you, I couldn't tell you exactly how many deputies were there in previous years. I mean, that number fluctuates based with, with turnover. I mean, that does happen. They find other opportunities, they pursue other opportunities for advancement or self-improvement. And as far as managing road officers, I've had opportunities to be a supervisor from my first promotion back in the early 90s in the United States Army until now. And doing that, and you might say, how does that tie in? Well, in the United States Army, I also worked in the United States Army's Military Police Corps, doing the same operations that we do here, just on a military installation. So at any point in time, I was supervised over 16 and a half years there, and over 22 years out here in the civilian law enforcement field. The number's vast. I'd say.
But at one time.
At least at any one time, I've supervised upwards 36.
Tom?
Okay, as far as the numbers currently, I believe their numbers are accurate. 13 road deputies, and then you've got some supervisors there too. And I know there's some man unit personnel, and Tim's exactly right. Those numbers fluctuate. I know that back in 2009 there was some financial issues and a lot of guys got laid off. But he's right. I mean, people come and go and fluctuate around there. My management experience, again, is first line supervision in the United States Army as a platoon sergeant. 36 in my platoon. I was a section chief over a classified information office where I had 6 direct employees for the time that I was there. I was also assigned to the Pentagon and worked in the Army Operations Center, where even as a sergeant, the next closest guy to me in rank was a colonel that worked there. I still had first line supervision over the enlisted personnel in the Army Operations Center and over some of the most highly classified information in the Army at that time. Worked as a message courier for a while there and supervised employees that carried stuff to the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff when they were in the Pentagon. So I too was a union associate. We had our own FOP lodge, Wildlife Officers Local 143, and I was a union associate over 20 counties in Northwest Ohio for a duration of my career. So I'm well aware with how the FOP works, how the union works. I also have direct management experience with a Christian school, served several years on a school board there. But since it was a private school, I conducted all the hiring, the firing, the management of the staff, the teacher contracts, and everything about their scheduling that fell on me as well. And we had, I believe at that time we had 6 teachers, 3 kitchen staff, and a cleaning lady. And I also was responsible for the church board that oversaw that school board. That was all when I was working full-time as a wildlife officer to boot. So those responsibilities were in there. So I would say the most that I have had first-line supervision over was 32, 33. It fluctuated depending on how many guys were in my platoon.
Thank you.
Our current sheriff did not have a chief deputy. Tom, you've publicly announced that you will have a chief deputy, and it's Jeff Lehman. Why is it important to have a chief deputy, and why did you pick Jeff?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I chose to have a chief deputy, first of all, because the fundamental rule of management is you're only as good as the people that you put under you. When you put people in positions, they need to know what they're doing. In other words, whether it's a chief deputy, whether it's a sergeant, whether it's a lieutenant, if you're going to wear sergeant stripes in my department or you're going to wear lieutenant bars in my department, you're going to know what you're doing. Your promotion is going to be based on competency, not just because maybe you've been around for a while. If you know how to do the job, then you're going to be doing that job, and that's exactly the way that works. I chose Jeff for that exact reason, and I chose him even before I publicly announced I was going to run for sheriff. Number one, there's not enough money in the world to pay that guy to do something wrong. And I'm just going to say that publicly. He's not going to do anything wrong. If he has questions, he's going to come to me. He's going to be upfront and forthright with every single thing. Jeff is going to work for me, however. Jeff is going to do what I tell him to do, how I tell him to do it, when I tell him to do it, and he's going to hold people accountable to the structure of policies and procedures that I'm going to put in place in that department. Okay, I chose him. It was a no-brainer. Again, I mentioned earlier, 13 court jurisdictions out of how many counties? 20 counties, and I've met a few sheriff's deputies. I've met a few policemen. Okay, I've worked with a pile of them over the years as a wildlife officer. Out of that whole handful of folks that I knew, there's one guy of impeccable character. He may be a little bit stern. He may hold you accountable when you don't want to be held accountable. But to me, character and integrity is everything. If you cannot pay him enough to do something wrong. And again, I'm only as good as the people I put under me. Their competency, their integrity, and their character reflect ultimately on me, the department, and on Williams County.
Sean, I believe that you have publicly said you'll choose a chief deputy and a captain.
Yes.
Is that right? Can you say who they are?
No, I will not.
When will you announce?
They will be announced after I win the sheriff's seat. I will not say who they are. I will say that they are mirror of me. They are level-headed, very experienced, and they're family men. But due to the politics of how things work, how some bad blood, and some of the questions that we've had here already about trying to get agencies and stuff work together, it's not safe for them. I'm not going to risk their careers. I'm not going to risk their jobs, their names, anything along those lines. But I will say that I feel 3 heads are better than 2. That way, if an issue comes up and I consult with them, it's not going to be yes, no. It'll be yes, yes, and a no, or no, no, and a yes. It's never going to be something where we come apart, or we sit and talk with each other, and you're kind of stuck because 2 people are bullheaded. I've got 3 of us, and the 3 of us are going to run the office. But I will not announce who they are, just because it's not safe for them, and out of respect to those 2 guys and their careers.
So to be clear, it'll be after if you are elected in a general election, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. I haven't heard you address this, Tim. Do you plan to take on a chief deputy, and why or why not?
Well, I appreciate the question, and I think a chief deputy is an extremely important position within a sheriff's office. Your chief deputy essentially heads up the patrol operations, is a good liaison between the deputies as well as the sheriff. I've really strived so far to talk about let's do less politics and more service. And if I'm blessed to have been appointed to that seat at that point, I would be more than happy to take care of the politics end of things and allow the deputies to not have to worry about that. Allow a chief deputy to take responsibility for that. Understanding a chain of command, there will be a command structure that would be put in place. I've been responsible for selecting those supervisors within my administration with the Pioneer Police Department. I've taken the opportunity to sit here and carefully evaluate who you put into those positions. And in order to do that, I think that the most opportune thing to do is to take the opportunity to sit down when you get into office, take a look through personnel files, see who has what training, what qualifications, what makes them a good supervisor. And if they meet the criteria that would be sufficient to me, then I would be more than happy to promote those people into those positions. I have not selected a chief deputy. I will select a chief deputy. I believe it comes right down to timing. And as I look at it, chief deputy is not the individual that's running for the sheriff's position. I am at this particular point in time. And so therefore, I feel it's important that I focus right now on the March primary. And at that point, I didn't want to provide false hope to anyone. And so therefore, when the time comes, there will be a selection made for chief deputy.
Good, thank you.
We're going to go to Tom on this because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I got away from your selection of almost a running mate as a chief deputy is that you said that you would look at this in terms of qualifications and competency more than years of service with the sheriff's department, for lack of a better analogy, and similar things from all 3 of you. As you know, Williams County Sheriff's Department and the communications agency is union represented, and I believe at least 2 of you said that you have been union represented in the past, and it's implied by what you just said that maybe you wouldn't be doing what the union would like if you appointed someone that was more competent and less experienced. So could you address how you would handle union negotiations as sheriff in the best interest of the county? Tom.
Sure. And that's a very good question. Thanks for asking that, because there is a little bit of ambiguity there. I understand that. As a wildlife officer, as a union associate, as a wildlife officer, covering that vast of an area, that dealt with several different supervisors in several different demographic areas of the state. And ultimately, that chain went all the way back to Columbus. So I'm well aware that dealings with management, I've seen different managers react to the union in myriad different ways. How would I deal with the union? Much the same as I did. Work rules are the work rules. But there's got to be a give and take when you deal with, with union employees, and there's got to be an understanding that a contract is a contract. Another great reason that I chose Jeff is because of his time as chief of police here in Montpelier. He's also very well skilled from the management perspective, working with the union. So when you put us together, truthfully, I really have not even thought about an issue of dealing with the union or with union employees, having been one my entire career and having watched how management interacts and being an integral part of that during the course of my career dealing with management. Trust me, I've seen what works and what doesn't work when those two parties meet. I'm just not envisioning a big issue with reaching compromises and working with union employees. That's really not on my radar of problems that I'm going to worry about or that will become a problem. I simply will not let it become a problem.
Tim, do you want to address how you would handle union negotiations as sheriff in the best interest of the county?
Sure. Over the course of different employment, I've had opportunities to be a part of a union. I also currently sit on the school board for North Central Schools, so I've had an opportunity within the past year to take a look at union contracts and negotiating that back and forth with them, and we were able to successfully negotiate a contract, and that just simply comes down to being open-minded, open to accept what it is that they would like to propose to us, and being open, just being open-minded, taking a look and seeing what works out best for the agency, what's gonna work out best for all of us as a whole, so that we can focus on the job at hand, and that's performing the job of law enforcement in this county. I don't want things such as union contracts to be a stumbling block for us. So I think it just, having the years in administration that I have, taking the opportunity to sit down and just actively listen to what it is that they're looking for. We don't want to price ourselves out of business, because we know at the end of the day, we have a job to do, and that's perform law enforcement. I think sitting down with them as a good administrator and taking the opportunity just to simply listen and negotiate and work back and forth, I don't foresee any issues.
Sean, would you like to address union negotiation as a union member, former union member?
Like I said before, I've been a union president before. I was a union president when we had to lay off the guys in the past. I've also been a union representative for our supervisors union. There's always issues and stuff that come up. It's like what they said, you got to be open-minded about dealing with what's going on, but you have to have open dialogue with them. Even as a supervisor, there's times where you have to negotiate the whole dealing with an officer if he's got an issue going on. Do you put on the hat of a supervisor and tell him what the administration wants him to know, or do you want to talk to him, I'm also a union representative, so I got to tell you how the union side goes. So you have to be able to learn to mesh and do that. And I've done that for most of my career at the sheriff's office. Just like I said before, my plan of attack on things, if the county shuts down for a snow day, it don't cost the county nothing extra for these other officers that are actually out working on the road, that are out pushing the cars out of the ditches, they're 10 calls deep, they're getting stressed out, but they get nothing extra for it. The best morale to do for these officers, the ones that are actually working the road, give them a free snow day. You get a free bonus day. Part of our contract is they earn bonus days for certain things. You get a bonus day and say, hey, guess what? You got 90 days, you got a free day off of work. You pick it out, we work with administration to put it through scheduling. It costs me nothing as sheriff. But what does it do to my guys? It boosts their morale. Because why? Because the county's shut down under a level 3 or whichever level it's going to be, and all the county offices are shut, all the county employees are getting paid for the day, but not those deputies that are out there pushing the cars out of the ditch. They're 10 calls deep. They're out there struggling. They're out there trying to get everyone home safely. They're trying to get the roads clear. get the little kids out of the car, helping the paramedics, helping the fire department out there. But part of my plan is, when we have those days and the county shuts down and all the other county employees get the day off with pay, guess what? My deputies are out there pushing the cars out of the ditches. They're gonna get a bonus day. They got 90 days to use that part of the contract. And with my experience from being there, I already know what our policies and procedures are. I already know what the contract is because I've helped negotiate them. I've been there through fighting. I know why we've done the things that we've done because I've been there when we made our mistakes, picked ourselves back up, and moved forward. But as dealing with union and union issues, it's simple. You have an open door policy. You sit down and you talk to the guys and you try to negotiate and work things out. A lot of things can be done before it even gets to contract time. You can sit down and work things out and talk to each other if you have an open door policy. But one of the first things you gotta do on day one when you walk in there is you gotta build that morale. And even something as simple as a snow day that costs me nothing, but boosts the morale, those are the kind of things that are in my plan when I step forward.
Thank you, Sean. Can you tell voters, and this is addressing to all three of you, and we'll start with Tom, can you tell voters tonight you will take on, or at least investigate to the fullest extent of the law, the tough, politically sensitive cases of wrongdoing in this county, regardless of who it is, what agency and department it is?
Well, again, thank you, and I actually like the way that question was worded, absolutely. Again, I want to hammer out to make sure that everybody understands that the state mandate for a sheriff's department, the reason a sheriff's department exists, is to provide court security and law enforcement in rural and unincorporated areas of the county. My agency will investigate any complaint of criminal activity that is found in those areas, period. They'll be investigated fully, they'll be investigated totally, absolutely to the fullest extent that it can possibly be, regardless of the agency, the entity, the individual. I don't care if it's a litter case or a homicide, everything in between, with consistency and with structure and with timeliness put together, and again, something that can be presented to a prosecutor and is absolutely going to be as airtight as I can make it to get through the court system, regardless of what that crime is. If you're the guy whose barn's getting broken into, that's the important issue for you. If you're the guy that's having a child sex abuse problem somewhere, that's the crime that's important to you. It is not the sheriff's responsibility to assign priorities to any of those criminal offenses. It is his responsibility to ensure that his agency investigates all of them equally, consistently, and to the most effective, efficient manner that his budget and his personnel allow him to do.
Thank you, Tom. Tim, can you add to that?
Yeah, I think that, many of those very same sentiments, I think any individual or officer, whether it's a sheriff, lieutenant, captain, deputy, police officer, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in the business, it's our job to investigate complaints. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who people are or what they are. What it takes is fairness and consistency across the board. I think that's just what it comes down to. From the moment that you receive a complaint until it gets processed through the court, I think we have to continue to make sure that we take a look at every aspect of every investigation. Under my current administration, we make sure that that happens. We're in a very unique situation in many of the small departments that exist across the state of Ohio, is that we don't have dedicated detectives that work for us. So that's kind of a bonus for the officers that come to work for small police departments. They have the opportunity to go out and receive the complaint, respond to the complaint, and interact with the complainant and follow up with the complainant and take the information that they have, put it together in a very good complaint, sit down with our prosecutors and discuss the facts and circumstances of the case to make sure that it is solid. And again, it comes right back down to just being fair and consistent across the board. So there should be no holes in our investigations.
Thank you, Tim. Sean, can you add in how you would prioritize?
First thing comes back to day one. We have to work on the structure because at the current state, you will go anywhere from 4,500 to 5,000 calls a year at the sheriff's office. Now, even coming from Stryker PD through this last year, the amount of calls you handle is nowhere near that. You're lucky if you have a few hundred calls for the whole year. But when you deal with the stress of working at the sheriff's office and dealing with over 4,500 to 5,000 calls a year, you have to be able to break that down, because you take that by 13 officers, look at the workload that you have on you. So it has to go back to restructuring. When I was there, you'd have times where you have officers with 30 open investigations. You cannot put forth an effort, 100% effort, working on 30 open investigations. It just cannot continue to happen. So, and part of that process, you're gonna have to probably create a detective position, that detective to go out and work those homicides, work those bigger investigations, a baby death case, anything along those lines. It takes a little bit more time. Someone that's gonna be freed up to go out and work whatever hours a day, if it's day shift, night shift, whatever it is, someone that's gonna be able to fluctuate to take care of those big cases. That way it frees up more of the road deputies to be able to go out there and handle getting a dead deer off the road, getting a car off the side of the road, go and handle a quick domestic, or sitting down and trying to teach a kid to listen to their parents. There's a lot of steps of the process that has to be done, but the workload is the key to everything. You have to be able to take those major cases and have one investigator working on these things. Not only if it's a detective, but be able to have my captain, my chief deputy, and myself. I will be a working sergeant. There will be times that people are on the side of the road, I'll be out there helping them push their car off the side of the road. I'll also be the one out there pulling dead deer off the side of the road. I'll be going and responding to domestic calls. I'll be a working sheriff. The only part about that is, again, going back to the union, you cannot fill this position of a union officer. The union officers still take that. I am going to be an extra. I will be extra taking that workload off for those guys. But it comes back to that structure. You need to have one person focused on handling the big cases. And if you have that and you end up throwing a captain, a chief deputy, and a sheriff right there to assist that person, sky's the limit.
One question for Sean?
Yep.
Okay.
We're gonna, in the interest of time, we have some questions that were given to us. They're specific to each one of you, so it's our apologies that we've let you all give your little campaign speeches so far. So some of these, only one of you is gonna get a shot at, and my apologies. We don't want everybody to be here till 2 in the morning.
And what I'm hearing is we want to wrap this up in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So thank you guys again for being here, and everyone for being here. Sean, you've talked about instituting a special emergency response team.
Yes.
Is that really necessary, and what would that look like?
We definitely need a special response team, an SRT team, which is, some people look at it as kind of like a SWAT team. This is a team that I'm going to put together, again, going back to uniting the county. This is something I'm going to sit down with the chiefs of police, and it's going to be built from the ground up. So you're going to have to sit down and figure out what are the type of qualifications you want in your officers. What is the policies? We're going to have to sit down and figure out what the policies are and start to go through the process of picking these people out. But the biggest issue we have with not having an SRT team is, if we have a hostage situation or we have people inside the house that cannot get out with an armed gunman, we have to make a phone call. Guess what? We're calling Fort Wayne, Bowling Green, Toledo. Now you got people from an hour away. They have to receive that call, respond, get their gear, get to our area, get informed of what's going on, and then move forward. That's too long. We can't wait that long. But if I have a special response team and it's made up of officers from Pioneer, Montpelier, Edgerton, Sheriff's Office, Bryan PD, and we call that in, and we can even probably use the Alert 86 program and notify the guys, hey, we got a situation in Montpelier or Edgerton, they can start responding. Some of those times, the response time can be a matter of minutes, because some of those officers might already be on the road. The gear's in the back of their car. They're ready to go. Respond to the scene and start to handle it. But going back to being able to get the unit or get the county involved in this and getting the officers involved and the police chiefs, as we build this program and have them help go through and pick out what officers are going to be on this team, they're going to also be part of picking out what the training is. And then when it gets to the situation when we say, hey, we're good to go, we have this team all put together, then when a situation happens, if the Edgerton police chief decides, oh my gosh, I got a situation, we're going to call the team in, guess what? I'll still respond, but I'm giving controls as well to the local police chiefs. So then the local police chief knows what's going on, updates the guys that's going on. The team will pick their own commander. Between the commander and that local police chief, they'll decide, is it going to be a situation where, yes, we're going in, the chief says yes, the commander says yes, then they can go forward. If they get together, they talk about what's going on, and the chief says, yes, I want you in, and the commander says no, it's a no-go. It has to be a yes, yes. And this comes back to uniting the county into working together with this, getting the officers picked out, getting the officers trained, and working together. But we can't wait an hour to 2 hours for a special response team to come from a larger city to come and bail us out when we have military guys that are right here trained and ready to go. These guys are already in our county. These guys are already in our police departments. Utilize them. You have your own resources at our police departments that we could be putting together, putting this team together, and getting a reaction and a response in minutes rather than waiting on hours.
Quick follow-up. Have any idea how much is it going to cost, and where's that money coming from? In 500 words or less.
Yeah, about 100 words or less. I do know that there's a further justice budget out there. That's usually somewhere around $25,000. This is not going to happen overnight. This program and getting this team together is probably going to take a year or two. And in that time, you got further adjustments for 2020. You got one for 2021. Guess what? You can start taking a little bit of money out of this, start uniforming. I plan on putting the uniform on them. There'll be special deputized under me. But like I said, it'll be put together under my jurisdiction so they can go anywhere in the county. But again, the police chiefs will have a say in what's going on. And then other than that, it'll be worked out with the police departments on how they pay their officers and how we get some more of the gear. But there's grants out there as well that you can work with as well.
Thank you, Sean. Again, this as my last question. I want to thank all three of you for coming tonight, as well as our elected officials and the public for coming out tonight. Thank you for your time. This question is directed for Tom. You have spoke about the important role your faith plays in your life and how it has influenced your past career as a wildlife officer. Can you talk about if or how your faith will guide your decisions as sheriff, and if you feel that this would be a conflict of interest in your position?
Absolutely, I can talk about that. First of all, I'll just make the blanket statement, no, it's not going to be a conflict of interest. I am, I believe, one thing that a lot of you folks don't know about, I'm a licensed pastor of the United Brethren, so I can marry and bury them once we arrest them. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. That's what I'm running.
That's not a good hurry.
Yeah. Not necessarily in that order, depends on how cooperative. No, but as far as how my faith plays out, you know, God has guided me to this point through whether it was through my time in the service with Mansfield PD, especially all those times as a wildlife officer. Wildlife officers work alone. You are alone in rural areas a lot. He has guided me through some things that there were times I kind of wish there was a special response team there with me, and yet it was just me. So for me to say that he has not walked stride by stride with me and has carried me to this point. I'm an elder right now at the Life Changing Church, both campuses in Angola and Edgerton. Okay, and to that, I lead a Bible study on Wednesday nights. I'm missing tonight, and I'm going to be in trouble for that. Okay, over 40 men, and most of them are recovering drug addicts and alcoholics. And those guys, not only have they come to Christ as a result of this, but they're turning their life around. And that's how my interest in a lot of these nonprofit groups that are bringing people out of this with huge success rates. They're bringing people out of that circle of death. My faith was instrumental in me choosing Jeff. Jeff is also a believer. Where God guides, he provides. And if you people put me in this position, he will guide every single step. I'm not going to act outside of his precepts. I'm going to seek his guidance in every single thing I do. And what he decides for me to do is his decision. Sometimes people will like that, and if you're a believer too, you know sometimes you don't like that. But nonetheless, he's in charge. He's the one that's going to lead this department, and that's going to show me what to do. He's the first person I see, even before I start talking to my chief deputy about what to do next. So, does that answer it? Is that?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
this is also going to be my last question, and I want to thank you guys, but if we do this again, you're going to have a clock, because you guys are the most long-winded politicians I've ever been around. Like, we are only about 1/3 of our way through this, but I don't want anybody to die in the snow. And Tim, this one is just for you. Can you address the circumstances by which you left Montpelier Police Department? Because I know this has been a concern of many in the community, that there's some documents obtained by the Bryan Times that put somewhat of a shadow over your past.
Sure, no. You know, and I expect, you know, questions to be asked about anything that we do throughout the course of our life. And quite honestly, I'm not surprised that a question like this might come up, and that's okay. I served, you know, in the United States Army from 1987 until an opportunity where I was deployed returning back in 2004. During that course of time, if they also take a look and promote what information was in my personnel file, there was nothing but accommodations, and there were accolations, and there were awards that were issued, along with the multitude of awards that I'd received throughout the military as well. Coming back from a deployment, a long deployment, just also a very unfortunate period of time in my life. I did go through a divorce. Obviously, nobody ever goes into a relationship with that in mind, that that's the way things are going to end up. It didn't work out the way I wished that it would. Over the course of my 32 years of law enforcement, I did have one admonishment while I was with Montpelier Police Department. Basically, there was a suspension, and at that point, I fulfilled that. Back to work. There was no rank reduction. There was nothing criminal that was done. And so with that being said, I resumed duties. However, towards the latter part of that year, it was important for me to make an important life choice. I resigned there, and then I immediately picked up another law enforcement position within the county, and then I've been doing the very same thing. Again, over that course of from then until now, most recently selected for Top Cop Award. I was also selected with multiple awards from the VFW as a State Law Enforcement Officer of the Year Award. So in the grand scheme of thing, over a period of 32 years in law enforcement, if I've made one single mistake in my life, I'd like to say I'm doing pretty good. So I appreciate that.
I think we're good.
Well, that concludes tonight's event, and yes. We want to thank our panelists, Bob, Carrie, and Ron. Thank you to all our candidates, Sheriff, and all of those candidates. A big thanks to you also. A big thanks to BMU for taping this evening's event. It will air tomorrow on BMU Facebook page. BMU also has a YouTube channel, and they also have their BMU Channel 4. And it will also be on the Bryan and Montpelier Chamber Facebook pages tomorrow once it becomes available from BMU.
Once again, Dan and I give a special thanks to our sponsors and a huge thanks to the Williams County Veterans Building for the use of this wonderful facility tonight. We also have some punch and some cookies in the back if you guys want to mingle and ask questions, talk to each other. Feel free to do so.
Kim and I want to remind everyone that the primary election is March 17th, and to make your voice heard, you must get out and vote. I always enjoy ending an evening with a quote, and this one was from a very wise man who once said, "If you don't vote, you lose the right to complain." That wise man was the comedian George Carlin. Have a pleasant evening and a safe drive home.